Live from Angkasapuri, I'm Brenda Paul, and this is News at 10, our top stories tonight. All-out attacks leave Ukraine cutting diplomatic ties with Moscow. No quarantine for asymptomatic and boosted close contacts. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today broke off Kiev's diplomatic relations with Moscow in response to Russia's invasion of its Western-backed neighbor. Zelensky's decision came hours after Russian President Vladimir Putin launched an all-out offensive that included an air assault and ground invasions along Ukraine's northern and southern frontiers. This marks the first rupture in ties since Russia and Ukraine became independent countries after the Soviet Union's collapse in 1991. Ukraine and Russia maintain ties throughout the complex history of relations that included two pro-Western revolutions in Kiev in 2004 and 2014 that the Kremlin strongly opposed. Meanwhile, 18 people died today in an airstrike on a military base near Ukraine's Black Sea port city of Odessa. According to the local Odessa administration, 8 men and 10 women were killed, and at the moment, they are still digging through the rubble. It was the deadliest single strike so far of the day, reported by Ukrainian officials who had earlier put the death toll across the country at around 50, including about 10 civilians. The attack struck a military base about 100 kilometers north of Odessa, in a region near Ukraine's border with Moldova. Malaysia will take a neutral stance and will not be meddling in with the crisis in Ukraine. However, according to Prime Minister Datuk Seri Semasa the priority for him is to have all 11 Malaysia citizens from Ukraine.
Kita telah pun menghubungi mereka ini dan proses evakuasi telah pun dilaksanakan. Ya, jadi rakyat kita dalam keadaan selamat. Setakat ini belum ada, tetapi kita semua bersetuju yang Malaysia sebuah ASEAN sebuah kumpulan sebuah pertubuhan negara-negara bebas, ya, kita tidak mencampuri urusan negara lain, ya, kita tidak mencampuri. Prime Minister Hun Sen pun bersetuju yang kita tidak akan membuat barang kenyataan unless negara-negara ASEAN membuat perbincangan dan memutuskan secara konsensus untuk kenyataan tersebut. Selagi tidak ada keputusan konsensus negara-negara ASEAN, selagi itulah kita tidak membuat sebarang kenyataan atas nama ASEAN.
He said today when asked on the conflict in the presence of his Cambodian counterpart in conjunction with his official visit to Cambodia. Meanwhile, Cambodian Prime Minister Samdech Techo Hun Sen said Malaysia and Cambodia feel that the Ukraine-Russia conflict requires a dialogue in seeking a peaceful solution for the two neighboring countries. He said despite being far away and a small country, international issues such as this are very concerning to both Malaysia and Cambodia. We will have more updates on the situation in Ukraine in the foreign segment, so stay with us. Now, moving on to local updates. Close contacts of COVID-19 cases who are fully vaccinated, complete with booster shots, are no longer required to undergo home quarantine, on condition they are asymptomatic and test negative on day 1 and day 3 using RTK antigen self-test kits. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said close contacts who have yet to receive their booster jabs, however, are still subjected to Home Surveillance Order HSO for 5 days.
Dan sekiranya positif, mestilah lapor keputusan itu ke Mahkamah Sejahtera dan menjalani tempoh isolasi sekiranya positif. Tapi sekiranya mereka negatif pada hari pertama dan hari ketiga, mereka boleh terus dengan urusan seperti biasa.
Speaking at a press conference today, the minister said the new protocol takes effect on 1st March. Khairi added that the ministry decided to implement the new protocol for close contacts based on several recommendations. Based on the current data, he said MOH found that the incubation period of the Omicron variant is 3 days before an individual develops symptoms or tests positive for COVID-19. Current data on the various variants also show that the viral load reduces for COVID-19 patients who are fully vaccinated. The new protocol, he added, will pave the way for Malaysia to transition into the endemic phase. In a related development, Khairi said recipients of the Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine aged 18 and above, as well as all vaccine recipients aged 60 and above, have been given an extension to get their booster shots before their fully vaccinated status lapses. The health minister said the date has been extended to 31st March from the previously set date of 28 February.
Tetapi untuk memudahkan golongan ini mendapat dos penggalak dan status vaksinasi mereka tidak diubah, Kementerian Kesihatan setuju untuk melanjutkan tempoh ini sehingga 31 hari bulan Mac. Bermula 1 hari bulan April, status vaksinasi lengkap untuk golongan tersebut akan tukar kepada tidak lengkap sekiranya masih belum mendapat dos penggalak.
Previously, on 16 December last year, Khairi announced that full vaccination privileges will be withdrawn from Sinovac vaccine recipients, as well as those aged 60 and above, if they do not obtain a booster dose by 28 February. He said the decision was made after considering the arrival of the Omicron COVID-19 variant, as well as guidance from the World Health Organization, WHO, and that studies had indicated a reduced vaccine efficacy rate against Omicron. Increasing palm exports to Cambodia and import of rice to Malaysia is seen as among the ways to increase both countries' bilateral trade, as well as expand collaboration in the field of ICT, fintech, cybersecurity, SMEs and business startups. Prime Minister Dr. Semasa also acknowledges that bilateral trade between both countries is still low and needs to be further enhanced in line with the potential of the two nations.
Malaysia menawarkan minyak sawit dan produk minyak sawit berkualiti tinggi kepada Kemboja. Saya berharap agar perdagangan kita dalam produk ini dapat dipertingkatkan lagi. Dari segi pelaburan, saya suka mendengar bahawa aktiviti dan sumbangan para pelabur dari Malaysia di sini adalah amat menggalakkan, di mana ianya telah membuka banyak peluang pekerjaan dan ekonomi yang menyumbang kepada perkembangan ekonomi di Kamboja.
In return, the Cambodian Premier suggested that Malaysia import more rice from the kingdom and also invited Malaysian businesses to invest in rice milling. Dr. Sri Masabri also said that the Malaysian government is seriously considering the opening of Malaysia's international borders. He added that the decision on the matter will be announced in the near future. Meanwhile, the Premier said Malaysia will continue to support Cambodia's efforts as ASEAN chair, as well as the special envoy of the ASEAN chair of Myanmar, in dealing with the situation in Myanmar effectively. Dr. Sri Masabri said Hun Sen understood the challenges and constraints faced by Malaysia in temporarily housing the refugees.
Malaysia berpandangan bahawa Myanmar adalah sebuah negara jiran dan negara ASEAN yang dihargai. Namun kita mahu melihat Myanmar pulih seperti sedia kala. Kita juga mahu agar Myanmar terus mencapai kemajuan demi kebaikan rakyatnya dan agar negara tersebut berada dalam keadaan yang aman, harmoni dan sejahtera.
He also stressed that the ASEAN 5 PC is very important as it is the region's common direction in dealing with the situation in Myanmar. Hence, the Prime Minister said all parties should work together to implement the ASEAN 5 PC effectively and comprehensively. However, Dato Sri Ismail Sabri said the main responsibility in this matter lies with the government in Myanmar, as they are also part of this consensus. And still to come, Roger Ng's 1MDB trial delayed again. Stay with us. The trial of a former Goldman Sachs banker accused of helping loot Malaysia's 1MDB sovereign wealth fund will be paused due to late disclosure of some evidence by prosecutors to the defense. Prosecutors said in a Wednesday morning court filing, more than a week after opening statements in Ng's trial began, that they learned late on Tuesday that one U.S. Department of Justice division did not share with them, or Ng, some 15,500 documents related to Tim Leisner, Ng's former boss. Mark Agnifilo, a defensive attorney for Ng, said the documents could be critical for the defense. District Judge Margot Brody called the late disclosure troubling, noting that she had previously asked prosecutors to make sure all disclosures were made. Brody said she would allow prosecutors to finish questioning Leisner, then pause the trial before cross-examination to give Agnifilo time to review the new documents. Agnifilo argues that $35 million Ng received, that the government calls ill-gotten gains, was actually derived from an unrelated business venture between Ng's wife and Leisner's ex-wife. Between 2009 and 2014, Goldman reaped some $600 million in fees for helping 1MDB sell $6.5 billion in bonds. But around $4.5 billion of that was diverted, and Goldman bankers bribed officials to win business for the bank, U.S. prosecutors say. Goldman in 2020 paid a nearly $3 billion fine and arranged for its Malaysian unit to plead guilty in U.S. court. Lembaga Tabung Haji has declared a 3.1% profit after zakat involving 2.46 billion ringgit for the 2021 financial year. Minister of the Prime Minister's Department, Religious Affairs, Dato Idris Ahmad said the distribution of profit would benefit about 8.4 million Tabung Haji depositors, with 219 million ringgit more profit compared to 2.24 billion ringgit for the 2020 financial year.
Prestasi 2021 yang dicapai oleh tabung haji walaupun dalam suasana ekonomi yang mencabar mencerminkan komitmen dan usaha berterusan ahli lembaga, ahli-ahli panel pelaburan, pihak pengurusan kanan dan seluruh anggota tabung haji dalam memastikan penjanaan pulangan yang baik dan berterusan. Saya percaya bahawa kejayaan tabung haji adalah kejayaan semua.
Speaking at the announcement of 2021 Tabung Haji profit declaration at Bandara Tabung Haji today, he said the profit distribution is competitive, taking into consideration the rate is higher than the average Islamic banking fixed deposit rate for 12 months, which is 2.36%. Dato Idris said the return also took into consideration 107 million ringgit in zakat, which was paid on behalf of depositors. He added that the savings guaranteed by the government exceeded 83.33 billion ringgit, which is the highest in the 59-year history of Tabung Haji. A total of 72,509 Felkra Berhad participants nationwide will be getting a final distribution of 272.75 billion ringgit in profits from consolidation and rehabilitation projects in 2021. Rural Development Minister Dato Sri Madzek Khalid said this brings Felkra's distributable profits for the year 2021 to 475.2 million ringgit, an increase of almost 200%. Compared to 159.086 million ringgit in 2020.
Peningkatan harga minyak kelapa sawit itu ataupun kelapa sawit itu, harga kelapa sawit itu menyebabkan peneroka untung lah untuk kita bagi agihan, keuntungan agihan kepada mereka.
Speaking at a press conference after attending Felcra's final distributable profit declaration and presentation ceremony in Kluang today, Dr. Sri Madze said 136.37 million ringgit would be distributed under the first phase of final distribution for 2021 tomorrow, which is 2 months earlier than usual, while the second phase distribution, totaling 136.37 million ringgit, would be given out in April. Felcra had made a first interim distribution of 76.22 million ringgit in August 2021 and second interim distribution of 126.23 million ringgit in November. Candidates contesting in the Johor state election can submit their forms to the returning officers from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. at 56 nomination centres PPC on nomination day this Saturday. Election Commission EC Secretary Dato' Ikmalruddin Ishak in a statement said the prospective candidates are advised to fill in the form and double check with the returning officer's office or state election office prior to nomination day. He said the candidates are also advised to pay the deposit early and bring the payment receipt on nomination day as proof of payment to ensure that all the processes can be completed earlier and will run smoothly. Dato' Ikmalruddin also reminded candidates representing political parties to bring along the letter of permission to use the party's symbol from the respective party they are representing and submit it together with the nomination papers. He stressed only the candidates, their proposers and seconders would be allowed to enter the nomination centres on that day. He added that supporters of candidates are not allowed to gather or engage in any procession at any venues or PPC on nomination day. In addition, he said the standard operating procedure for the Johor polls to curb the spread of COVID-19 was approved by the Health Ministry on 18 February, in line with Regulation 16 of the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases, Measures Within Infected Local Areas, National Recovery Plan 2021 regulations. As speculated earlier, national #1 men's singles shuttler Lee Setia has joined forces with Taiwanese sports equipment company Victor. Victor and the world #7 Zija confirmed the collaboration on their Instagram pages today, but did not reveal the contract details. In 2015, the Badminton Association of Malaysia, BAM, inked a 6-year deal worth 60 million ringgit with Victor, ending a 15-year partnership with renowned Japanese brand Yonex. Incidentally, Zija's rise to fame began during the time when Victor was BAM's sponsor. However, BAM returned to Yonex by signing a 55 million ringgit deal from the 1st of April 2021 till 31st of March 2026. Victor is also currently sponsoring Taiwan's world #1 women's singles player, Tai Su-ying, world #2 men's doubles pair, Muhammad Ahsan Hendra Setiawan of Indonesia, and Denmark BA. Zija, who was in the limelight early this year after quitting BAM to turn independent, had reportedly received a multi-million ringgit offer from a badminton equipment brand. After helping the national team to clinch the Badminton Asia Team Championships 2022 last weekend, Zija is expected to begin his journey as a professional at the German Open from 8 to 13 March before defending his All-England title from 16 to 20th March. Wrapping up the news at 10, making the headline tonight, all-out attacks leave Ukraine cutting diplomatic ties with Moscow. Join me again at 12:30 p.m. tomorrow. Till then, it's lights up. I'm Brenda Paul. Stay safe and have a good night.